Hey, good morning. This is Travis Bowl Johnson. Welcome to this week's Independent is Power. Originally this week, I was planning on doing a show on ways to reduce our military spending. But after this week in the Supreme Court, we kind of shifted gears because there was three big cases that were decided this week that I wanted to touch on. Two of which, of course, the news is all over. The third one I think is almost equally important, but it barely been touched. Uh, of course, we're going to kick off. Let's kick off with the most contentious of the issues is the overruling of Roe versus Wade, and what does it mean? I'm not going to get into the details as far as whether as the actual issue of abortion. Uh, we will go into a couple things on one, was it the right decision, and two, what is the impact? I firmly believe that it was the right decision. I've said this from the beginning that the federal government has no business getting involved in that. That is not to say on a pro-life or a pro-choice. It's just saying on the merits of the case, there was nothing to give the federal government the authority to get involved in that, or the Supreme Court to even make a decision on it. I mean, I know I'm going to have some people out there agree or disagree. But I mean, as a whole, I think it was the right choice and goes right in lines with my libertarian principles of less government is better. Now, what is going to be the impact? I think part of what the impact is going to be is red states going to turn redder, blue states are going to turn bluer. We're going to have people leave red states that prohibit it to move to blue states that allow it. And I don't see that going the other way. I don't see people moving to red states because those red states have it illegal. I think they're going to kind of stay in those blue states, but it's still going to result in blue states turning bluer, states turning redder, and it will increase the divide in this country. That I think is not something we should be striving for. But I think it is going to be the result of the case. What I don't think is going to be a result in the case is that it's going to lessen abortions in the least. I mean, as I said, we're just going to force people into states that allow it. If people have the money, it's going to start a whole new sector of the economy for abortion tourism. And more to the point, it's going to things like the morning after pill. You can't put that genie back in the box. What's going to happen is that is going to be one of the new drugs that drug dealers and cartels offer. I mean, it is still, so it's not going to have a real net effect. People who want an abortion or feel they need an abortion are going to find a way to get it. It's going to work just like everything else that the government has prohibited. It's the whole, you know what? I tell you not to do something, people are going to do it just because somebody said not to do it. So I don't think this is going to have a net impact on the number of abortions. What I do think would have an effect on the effect of abortions is we need to address the causes. One of those causes, in my view, is the lack of respect for life. If we're going to say it's okay to abort a child because in a fetus, that life is not important, does it surprise us with the number of mass shootings we have when people go in there and take away life that to them is not important? We got to somehow figure out how we're going to restore this respect for life as a whole. We need to start addressing with kids the impact of consequences. Life has choices, and choices have consequences. We don't always get a do-over. And for a certain extent, that's what an abortion does, is it grants a do-over. Whoops, we messed up here. I don't want to deal with that. Let's go the abortion route, and I'll make a better decision next time. That's kind of what we've been teaching in school for the last 20 or 30 years with our whole not allowing kids to fail, not showing them in school there are consequences for your choices. So it's hard to blame them when after they get out of school that they don't think they're going to have consequences. And then we continue to allow them ways to get out of those those choices. I think as a whole, I mean, we need to show people, we need to make abortion a unthinkable act, and we don't do that by creating laws. We do that by ensuring that our young men and women have opportunity, that they don't feel that they have to have an abortion because they can barely provide for themselves. How are they going to provide for a child? We need to address the availability of childcare. And to me, that means, to a certain extent, government getting out of regulating it to the extent that they do. It means getting the IRS out of some of the taxes for somebody who wants to stay at home and take care of kids in their home, wants to make it easier to do so. I mean, when I grew up, I mean, there was a neighborhood mom, and that's who basically took care of a lot of the kids while the parents were working. It was a matter of dropping them off, picking them up after work, and they charged a reasonable amount, and we all went on with life. It wasn't a matter of ensuring that this building has X amount of exits or this or that. I mean, or making it harder than it had to be. We need to address issues like that make people think that is their only option. We need the churches, we need the nonprofits to step up and help these young people. Can you imagine if the money we spent through nonprofits on the last election was actually spent on addressing opportunity for our young people? We need to go ahead and we need to address, and we've said this time and time again, the imprisonment of our young people for nonviolent crimes or for crimes without a victim. When these people are put in jail, that removes their ability to provide for a potential family. And that leads to people feeling, again, that they're on their own, that this is their only option. Is it a primary factor? No. But is it a factor? I firmly believe it is. We have to teach our young men that, hey, you know what? It takes two to tango. If you do get somebody pregnant, you're responsible, Chief. I mean, this is something you helped create. You don't get a free pass because you can run away and feel like you don't have to pay or you don't have to contribute. We have to go back and teach people about and reemphasize what responsibility means, what pride means. I think we've lost that. And that gets me into a whole nother tangent that we'll cover at another time. But that is my quick synopsis on Roe versus Wade. Second case we're going to talk about, of course, is the gun rights case in New York. In New York, in order to get a permit to carry a pistol outside your home, you had to show reason. Why do I need it? And the Supreme Court basically came back and said, it's a right. You don't need to prove your need. So I mean, that kind of flips the whole script on a number of states who have basically had a mindset of, you have to show us why before we'll say yes. In Minnesota, if I request a carry permit, basically the law here reads that permit shall be issued to me unless they can show a reason why it should not be. In New York, it was flipped, where it says that they will not give that permit unless I can prove it and why I need it. And this Supreme Court came back and said, hey, that's a no-go. I mean, the right to bear arms is a right, not a privilege. I mean, you have to show why they can't have it rather than they have to show why they should be allowed to. This is going to have a huge impact on laws across the state because it is going to minimize how states can prohibit people from carrying guns in certain locations. Now, is it the ultimate fix? No, not at all. I mean, New York is already coming up on ways to prohibit it. The Supreme Court did leave the doors open, saying, you know what, there are certain things that you could say, well, in this situation, carrying in that location would not be prohibited. In New York, one of the things they're pushing now is there could be no concealed permit in a certain amount of a population density, which would basically cover the entire New York area. Would that be challenged and overruled? Probably. But there are still going to be ways that our Second Amendment rights are going to be under attack. and we do have to be vigilant and keep fighting that to make sure that we continue to have that right to bear arms and have that ability to discourage a tyranny. Because at the end of the day, that is what discourages the federal government or any government from continuing to push us against the wall, is the fact that we do have the ability to push back. The third case I want to talk about is one that has not got the fanfare of the other two, but I do think it is right up there in importance. It is a case called Vega versus Takeo, I believe is his last name. What this case involved was a case in, I believe it was 2014, where there was a crime of sexual assault in a hospital with a female who was not capable of consenting. For their suspect, basically, they took him aside and they questioned him. They never gave the Miranda rights. At one point during the interview, the officer, because this was a immigrant, the officer supposedly puts his hand on his pistol and basically says, you know what, we'll just call immigration and y'all can all go back to Cameroon. And what ended up happening is the guy ended up confessing because he didn't really feel like there was any other choice for his family. Well, it went to court. Even though the Miranda rights were never read, they did allow that statement to be, that confession to be in the court. The jury still found him not guilty. So then the guy turned around and he sued the police officer for failing to give him his Miranda rights, which falls under a section called 1983, which allows people to sue public officials if they have violated basically their constitutional rights. This went back and forth in the court system and being thrown out or being accepted, and it finally got up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that while you do have a Fifth Amendment rights to remain silent, the requirement to read your Miranda rights is not a constitutional right. They don't have to tell you what your rights are, so you were not able to sue in that for violating those civil rights. As far as the right to remain silent, they came back and said, I mean, your remedy under that is that anything that was said or came out because of that interview when you weren't told your rights, your remedy for that is it just can't be used against you. But you have no other right to remedy or to hold these officers accountable for violating those rights. I believe that I don't really agree with that decision. I mean, it basically opens the door for police officers to not read those rights and use the information that comes out under these situations in other ways that could still be used in a court of law. They may not be able to use exact words, but they can infer some of the things to go down other trails that they would not necessarily have went down otherwise. It just weakens our constitutional rights, and I am firmly against anything that will weaken any of the rights granted to us by the Constitution. I understand the thought process of the court, but I just don't necessarily agree with it. I mean, they have basically said that, hey, this is a right. Please, authorities should not abuse it, but they don't have to tell you that it's a right, which could lead them to abuse it because you don't know any better. I think this is extremely important when we start dealing with our immigrants, our people whose English is not a primary language, because they may not understand all of their rights, and they're coming from countries where these rights did not exist. So I think in order we have to keep that accountability. I mean, it is hard enough to sue the police because of qualified immunity for violating your rights. When we put even another barrier to that, I just think it diminishes our capability to hold them accountable. And again, I don't think that case necessarily got the press that it should have. I really wish my buddy James was around today, and I'm gonna have to include him on one of these podcasts because he's kind of my legal expert to a certain extent. I like to sound a lot of these things off of him. I didn't really get the opportunity for it to do it this week, but I would love to have had his input on all three of these cases. It is going to affect us going forward, all three of these cases. So I mean, we need to pay attention. I mean, you need to pay attention. I mean, the Supreme Court is getting around to fixing a lot of things I think they messed up in the past. It doesn't mean they're going to get them all right. I mean, the Supreme and I was really frustrated with the dissent from Stephen Breyer on the firearms case. He led his dissent with saying X amount of Americans are killed every year for gun violence. How exactly does that have anything to do with your interpreting whether the law is in line with the Constitution of the United States? That is a political statement. The purpose or the job of the Supreme Court is to ensure that the laws that are passed by the Congress are in line with the Constitution of the United States. It's not their job to make a moral decision on it, but that is to leave that section is to be left to the legislators, which is basically the finding that they came back with on the Roe versus Wade of this is not our job to say whether abortion is right or wrong. That is up to the response. That is up to the representatives of the people. And it needs to go back to the states so the states can make a decision on it with the will of the people. And again, I firmly believe that is was the right choice. But I'm a little frustrated when your dissent is based off of emotion rather than the legalities. And when your introductory statement is worded that way, that is saying you're running this off of emotion rather than the legalities. And I personally expect more from the Supreme Court. I expect them to say, yes, this is constitutional. No, it's not. This is why. They're not supposed to be involved in the morality of it, but they're supposed to be involved in the legality of it. So I do hope in the future when court justices become open, that the people who are deciding whether to both to select and to confirm these justices will keep that in mind. I mean, that I believe was the original intent with the Constitution. I'm gonna get off my soapbox for the Supreme Court cases now. We are going to touch a little bit on our campaign before we go any further. If you look in our comment section, you'll see a guy named Patrick Dennis commenting. Pat is our new campaign manager. Pat has been with me from day one. My first meet and greet over a year ago at the Eagles Club in Crookston. Pat came from about 2 hours away to come here to come and visit with me and to kind of feel me out. Over the past year, he has gotten more and more involved in local politics and has developed a lot of the contacts and a lot of the built up some of the relationships that we finally gotten to the point where I really needed a campaign manager. I was trying to do too much on my own. I needed somebody else to help run point and keep me where I was supposed to be and let me shake hands and kiss the baby, so to speak. Or is it the other way around? But so yeah, we brought on Pat to be our campaign manager this weekend. We're glad to have him. Welcome aboard, Pat. Our team is slowly starting to come together, and we're getting ready for that big push. For those who weren't aware of it, Minnesota yesterday opened up the opportunity, the primary voting season. What does that mean to you? It means that you now have the ability to vote in the primary. Am I in a primary? I do not have an opponent in the primary. However, I am still on the primary ballot. One of the things we're trying to push with this primary season is we need to show people that we are a serious candidate, that we are a serious option. So what I am asking you to do, that if you do not have and in Minnesota, you have an open primary. You can vote in any of the primaries that you like. And when I say any, I mean each party. You cannot vote for multiple parties in your primary. You have to pick a party, vote in that in from their slate of candidates, and you're not allowed to say, you know what, for governor, I want this Republican. For Secretary of State, I want this Democrat. For state, for House rep, I want this legalized marijuana now. Or no, you have to pick a party and vote on that party all the way through. So what I am asking you is, if you do not have a emotional attachment to one of the major parties or one of the major races, please vote for us, even though I am running unopposed, because we want to be able to show people that we are serious, that we are legitimate. There are a couple of major endorsements that got put on hold when I did not qualify for the ballot as an independent. If we do well enough on this primary, showing people, you know what, even without an opponent, this is how many people wanted to show their support for Bull, then that's going to help us be able to get those endorsements and that media attention that's just completely avoiding us. I mean, that's completely pretending like we don't exist. So please do that. You should be getting something from your county in the next week or so explaining how to vote in the primary. If you're in an area like me that does not have a open polling place for my township, you will probably get a ballot in the mail to fill out and mail back in. If you're from somewhere like Crookston that does have a polling location, if you want to vote by mail, you have to request an absentee ballot or go into your polling place to vote. They do have early voting. It's open from now until I believe it's August 8th, which is the actual election day. So please get out there, help support us, help drive our campaign. We've designed our campaign signs. They have been sent to the printer. We should get those back in about a week. Guys, please come help donate to our campaign. Those signs are going to be $10 a piece, or almost $11 a piece as our cost. That means for 100 signs, we're paying over $1,050 or so, plus tax. Please go to our website, bulljohnsonforcongress.us or bulljohnsonforcongress.com. We did get both addresses now, and contribute to our campaign. Help us go on and build to that next level. We're getting to the time of this campaign. Is this going to take money? I mean, it's going to, between the mileage we're covering, I'm covering anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 miles on a week, going out there and trying to hit all the points for our district. You guys already know what the price of gas is. I mean, it really makes it hard in rural America to campaign with the amount of distances we have to cover. And again, we can't do it without your help. We need to get these signs. We need to get these signs out so people see us and go, hey, who is this Bull Johnson? I need your help to do that. I need county captains. Okay. If you're in a county that I'm not and you don't mind helping us, being my point of contact in that county, please reach out to us so we can see if we already have somebody online. County captains will do stuff like, I'll give you 10, 15 signs, and when a request comes in from that county, I will direct them to you. You can help me stuff. Hey, let's do a meet and greet at this location. If you're up for it, it means you can help host a fundraiser, saying, hey, you know what, we can do this at my house. We'll help with the cost, and we'll move forward. But we need to start thinking about these things and taking that next step. This election is we're already almost through June. So we got July, August, September, and October. We got 4 months and a couple weeks to change our stars. So please, everybody, I appreciate your support. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And never forget, independent is power. Thank you very much.